This is episode 13 of the BTS Creative Academy Podcast. It's never too late. In conversation with Alfi Howard.
So, what's happening within your life right now?
At the moment, obviously, previously I've done a lot of theatre work, especially in and around Vicky Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm just sort of trying to make that push to do more sort of like film and TV stuff, trying to get my foot in the door a little bit. So I've been sort of striving more to do that, trying a little bit harder. So I've got a couple of friends who sort of have a lot of knowledge of stuff like that, so they've been giving me advice as I go along. So I've been on like websites like Backstage, Star Now and stuff like that, constantly applying, trying to get credits and then hopefully eventually get an agent. I've recently joined Spotlight, so that's one little accomplishment that I've achieved from the year. From the start of it, that was like a goal by the end of the year to try and successfully get on there. And I recently, a few months back, I got cast in like a web series, which was quite a nice milestone in it all, which I can only say a little bit about that, but it was quite a lot of fun.
So you're an actor? Yes. And how old are you?
I'm 21.
You're 21. So how long have you been acting for?
As long as I can remember. I remember, it's a cliche, but I remember when I was in probably like reception, so when I was like 4 or 5, doing our school nativity, and I was like a little narrator in that. So always, like as far as I can remember, I've always been doing it, always wanted to do it.
Yeah. So that was where the love of acting started at reception at school.
I've always loved films and TV. Like that is pretty much all I do in my spare time. If I'm not acting or working, I'll just be sitting there watching films and TV. So even probably before I actually started doing the acting, I've always had a love of the industry, because I've just always loved films, because they're just an escape. So that's always, so just always since back then.
So how did that take you? So you had this love at primary school of doing drama there, and then you've got this love of film. How did that take you into the theatre?
So I remember, so it's almost like a core memory. I remember when I was in year 7, like when I first wanted to properly start getting into it, when I sat there and went, this is what I want to do as a career.
So that's the beginning of secondary school, is that
right?
Right?
So we was doing, it was our end of year like summer production, and as like pretty much every young person in theatre, we were doing Bugsy Malone, because that's the go-to, and we were doing it at the Playhouse, so like quite a relatively big venue, and we performed that, and so that was a load of fun, especially being like a little year 7 in front of all those people. It was terrifying but exhilarating at the same time. And I remember afterwards leaving out through stage door, and some random man came up to me and shook my hand and told me how well I'd done. I didn't know this man, didn't know his name, and so it was at that moment when he shook my hand, I was like, this is what I want to do.
That was a real defining moment for you.
Yeah, that was probably the moment I sat there and went, I want to be paid, I want to live, this is my living, this is what I want to do.
I wonder what was that feeling at that time then? That guy coming up to you, shaking your hand, saying well done. What did you feel like?
It's quite hard to put into words, but I'd say the way I felt, it's like a bit of exhilaration, and it's a bit of almost appreciation. It's a similar feeling to being appreciated, like when you have like a family member or friend, and they just tell you like, thank you for doing this, if you've given like a present or something like that. It was like that, but just on a bigger scale, because this person had no inclination to do that for me. Like his day would have been no different had he just walked past me. And so it was an amazing feeling. It just made me feel like what I was supposed to be doing. It felt right.
That moment of appreciation changed the direction of your entire life.
Yeah, God knows where I'd have been otherwise.
So you did these shows at the Playhouse, and did you start to then get into community theatre? Is that kind of what your next
so I started
step was?
doing like all over the place. I'd done some things here. I'd done some things with Harlow Theatre Company. Just anything I could do, just all over. Was why I just enjoyed doing it, because it's fun is what we get to do. We get to play pretend on stage is what we get to do. So it's a lot of fun. and it's meeting so many new people all over the place all the time. And even if you do this one show with them, you've got that bond with this person that you met 5 weeks prior, and you formed this bond, and then you leave, and you can't imagine your life being different without them.
Yeah.
So
for people that don't do this this world of, say, theatre, community theatre, and professional theatre, tell me a bit more about that bond that you get, because do you get that in a normal workplace, in a normal job? Do you find that? Do you find that at school?
I think a little bit, but not as on so much of a scale as you do with like theatre, like things like workplace and school. You're with those people most of the week, like constantly. You're with these people, say 5 days out of 7 of the week, spending hours with them at a time over a span of months, years, even up to like a decade. You could be spending with these people, so you do form those bonds. But with acting, it's a very limited amount of time. You know it's a limited amount of time. Like some shows might rehearse for only 4 weeks. You're going to know this person for a month, but you still form that bond. You still hate to see them go. Whereas in any other instance, if I met someone at work for 4 weeks and then they left, it's not going to have as greatly an impact on your life. So I think where you're forced together for 4 weeks at a time and strip yourself of any barriers that you have, you let it all out, you're emotionally raw on stage with these people, it's hard not to make a bond.
Mm-hmm. There's something about working toward like a collective goal, isn't there? There's something behind that.
Yeah, it's almost like soldiers in the barracks sort of thing. You're all together, you're all want the same outcome, you're all going to work together, you're all going to be helping each other, leaning on each other, making sure each other are okay, especially in those like productions that are very emotionally raw, like with Luna, one of your previous guests, we've just done Enough, which is entirely about mental health. It's hard not to bond with those people when people are basically representing having a breakdown on stage. It's hard not to bond with. It's not hard not to watch someone let their heart and soul get ripped apart on stage, crying their eyes out, and then afterwards act like it didn't happen. You have to have that sort of bond with people.
And so where did you go next with your career so far? So you did drama at school. Did you go on to college or university or drama school or anything like that?
So I went to Harlow College and did performing arts there, which was a lot of fun. I met a lot of good people, a lot of friends. And then afterwards I did get into uni, and then we went into lockdown. And at the time I was dealing with some mental health issues, which thankfully are on the mend now. And so I had dropped out of uni due to lockdown and due to my own mental health. And then over the last few years, I sort of took a hiatus from the acting, worked on myself, I lost weight. I sort of got my head straightened out because it was starting to affect my acting as well. There were shows that I couldn't bring myself to do, even though I really want to do them, I love them. And now that I've sorted myself out in like the last year or so, I've started coming back into it, and everyone in the community has just really helped me feel welcome. And it is almost like learning to walk again, like coming back into the theatre, especially where I was bigger before. I had a certain type of role that I could play, whereas now I've sort of broadened it. There's so many other roles I can play, so it is learning all those new steps and getting to know all of the people in the community that I don't think I had the confidence to be friends with before. I was a very anxious person before. I still am, but it's a lot easier to get over it. I know like the coping mechanisms to help with that now.
Okay. Do you mind talking a little bit more about those coping mechanisms? And so you went through a period of time where things were a bit tough.
Yeah.
And you managed to bring yourself back out into the world, and you found yourself back in theatre after this period of time of not necessarily being able to do it.
Yeah.
And how did you do that?
I think a lot of it was unlearning some habits that I got myself into. I feel like a lot of it does come from being a teenager and stuff like that. You care so much about what other people think. And it's not that I don't care what other people think, because as humans we naturally do care what other people say. But it's a lot more for general people that are just fleeting by, that are just passing by me, that don't know me, not worrying as much about what they think. and just sort of trying to get that into your head that you've got nothing to be embarrassed by. If this random person that you're never going to see again doesn't like you, who cares? It's the people that are going to be there constantly that it does matter. But even then, like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. As long as you're being true to yourself, as long as you're not hurting anyone else and you're happy, that's what matters. And it was just a case of trying to ingrain that into my head.
So would you have any advice for someone that's perhaps in one of those dark places now?
Yeah, I think, so one thing I struggle with a lot, it's don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to get that help. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not weak to need help. If anything, you're stronger by getting help because you can admit that there's something wrong. So yeah, it would just be a case of like, no one around you is going to judge you. Anyone that would judge you for those things, they're not worth it. If you're struggling with your mental health, with anything, and you open up to someone and they chastise you for that, what's the point in that person's not a good person to have in your life, clearly. So just, yeah, don't be afraid to get.
So that's a really good message. Don't be afraid to get help.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and recognising that you're in a bad place.
Yeah,
and doing
and
something
like breaking
about
that cycle almost.
So how has coming back to acting helped you as well?
It's helped me because acting, for me personally, it's always been a sense of escape. For even 45 minutes at a time, 2 hours at a time, however long it is, I get to put myself aside. I'm not Alfie for those 2 hours. Any issues that I'm having in my life, I can put them on hold. Obviously, certain issues you can't put on hold, but for the most part, you can sort of look at yourself and go, that can pause for the next 2 hours. This is what is important. And as we were saying before, you have that bond with all the people around you. It's quite nice. Like, even if you aren't able to pause those issues, someone will be there to work it out with you before you go on stage, and then you can go on stage, be this random person for the next 2 hours. Like me personally, I love playing these comedic roles, so that's always fun to just sort of let go and be silly for 2 hours. Is always a lot of fun.
Tell me about the support that you've found when you've been doing a show.
Yeah,
and there's been, you say, like you might feel nervous, say, before a production.
Yeah, so I always, even to this day, despite how much I do, I still feel so nervous up until the moment I step out on stage. Then it sort of just washes away. But I think having all of the people around you, pretty much everyone is feeling the same thing. Everyone feels nervous, even probably like Oscar-winning actors all feel nervous to an extent. No one's got that sense of structure where they just do it and don't care even the slightest. So that's one bit that helps, knowing that you're not alone. Everyone else is also absolutely bricking it right now. And as we were talking about having a bond, these people all care about you. They're going to help you. If you show a sign of being nervous, if you tell someone you're nervous, someone will, even if it's as simple as just giving you a hug to make you feel better before going on stage, talking you through the issues, giving you confidence, telling you why you're here. Because that's another thing I sort of had to learn to help with the anxiety, is you wouldn't be here if you weren't good at it. When you get cast in a show, there's always that sense of imposter syndrome of like, maybe they've cast me just to be nice because they were too polite, but no one's going to do that realistically, especially when they're earning money from it. They're not going to risk losing out on money by casting someone who's not good. And it's just when people tell you that, if you're feeling nervous, someone will tell you that. If they know you're feeling nervous, they will give you that reassurance, which is always so nice and really helpful before you go back out on stage.
And I think you touched on it there as well, that the nerves mean you care.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nerves mean it's something that's important to you.
Absolutely.
When you realise that, I think sometimes you could. Well, me, if I'm acting, I will take those nerves, which I feel terribly, before I step out onto the stage. The nerves are eating me up and taking control of my entire body. But once I step out in front of the audience, I take those nerves and channel them into the care for what I'm doing.
Yeah, it helps you focus more.
It helps, and the focus becomes channeled, and it drives you into, it drives me, I don't know if it's the same for you, it drives you into a state of like flow.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it helps. It's almost like a pushing force behind you. It's just keeping you going. Like your brain can't stop and do something wrong. It almost goes into auto mode. Like your brain knows what it's doing. You can almost take a step back and just go, absolutely, just run.
So no matter how bad those feelings of nerves may be, they're important to have.
They're a good thing, yeah.
So stepping away from, so you got your world of theatre that you've been doing for quite a while now, and we started this conversation where you said you're starting to go on like websites and looking for jobs, and are you looking to move into the world of film now?
That would be, so I've always loved theatre. I'll always come back to theatre, but yeah, I would like to take that step into like the world of film and TV, because as I said before, I even probably knew what theatre acting was. I was always watching films and TVs. They were my form of escape. Some people play video games, some people write, some people read. For me, it was just sitting there and watching people pretend to be other people. And for me, I've always felt that theatre, any form of acting, it can be used to help people. Like, as I said, for me, it was a sense of escape. If I ever felt sad, put on a funny film. If I'm feeling angry, put on a film put on my favourite film that will make me feel better. And I feel like film and TV, where it was such a big part for me, and it does have that big reach, I would like to be able to help other people as well, because I have such an appreciation where it's helped me. It'd be nice to then put that back out into the world, to be able to help other people in the way that I've been helped.
That's really interesting. Tell me more about that giving back through doing acting.
Yeah, so like I've always felt everyone to an extent likes film and TV. There's very few people in the world that don't watch it, don't enjoy it. And even if you don't enjoy it, you're getting something out of it. You might watch something that makes you really sad. Like, people have had it before. I've had it before, certainly, where I've watched something and it's resonated with me for something I'm going through in real life. And I might, even if I've had an argument with my mum and I've watched something where someone's had an argument with their mum, and watching that's made me go, oh, I see where I've gone wrong, and I phoned my mum and apologised. So I would just like to be able to give those changes that help people get over certain issues, especially through comedy. That's where I've always felt at home, is making other people laugh. And I feel like if you can make someone laugh, that's one step closer to someone feeling a little bit better, even if it's just temporary. When you're laughing, when you're finding something funny, it is very hard. Like, you forget, even if it's for a minute while you're laughing at a joke, you forget about your issues for that minute because you're concentrating on laughing. And so that's what I would like to do, ideally.
So you're pursuing comedy.
That would be the ideal end goal. I love all forms of acting, but I've always been naturally into comedy. I've always felt that I'm a naturally funny person. I spend most of my days joking about anything and everything. And I love bringing that positive attitude at where I work. We could have like a 12-hour long day for a shift, and I just want to keep up the positive vibes, because that's the point of life. The point of life is to enjoy yourself and be fun. That's how I enjoy myself, and I like to think that I'm helping other people enjoy themselves, because it can be quite daunting sitting for 12 hours doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I like to think if I can bring that change, make people laugh, make people pretty much unable to breathe from laughing, I'm just making that day a little bit better, and that's what makes me feel good at the end of the night.
Where do you think that comes from within you to want to help people feel better?
I think part of it is where I have needed to feel better in the past. So it's like, I can't always help myself, but I can at least try to help others. And I think another part of it comes from growing up. Growing up, it was pretty much just me and my mum and my sisters. So my father was never in the picture growing up. So I've seen my mum be sad, I've seen my sisters be sad, they've seen me be sad, and they will always, they're not as funny as me obviously, but they will always help cheer me up, they'll always make me laugh. And so I think part of it is just in my genes from the two of them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've always felt like, even in my darkest moments, even when I felt my absolute worst, I've always wanted to try and be happy, regardless of whether I can or not. it's always been at the back of my mind that I want to be happy, I want to laugh right now, no matter how hard it is. So I think that's where it comes.
Really. So you're in the early days of your career.
Yeah.
What is the plan for pushing the acting career forward? Because obviously, you know, acting is a tough career to pursue.
Absolutely.
I'm nearly 40, and I started out kind of pursuing it at the same sort of age as you were.
Yeah.
And it's had highs and its lows.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's there's not a definitive path.
No, it is all over the place.
Yeah. So, but what's your how are you going to find a path in this world?
So what I've been doing, especially over this past year, of properly trying to do it professionally, trying to make it a career that I can hopefully one day live off of and not need a second job. I've had little milestones that I'd ideally like to hit. So for the upcoming year, so for the rest of this year and going on to next year, I'd like to get an agent, is what I'd like to do. Now that I'm on Spotlight, I've just got new headshots done, I'm going to start applying to agents, just keep applying and hoping and praying that one of them says yes to me and takes me on, whilst also independently applying for jobs, because there's only so much that just sitting and waiting for someone else to do it can do. And at the moment I've started to try doing some writing, and I would like to continue to pursue that more, because I've always been under the adage, for me personally, that if you're not getting the work, try to make the work for yourself. It's like a lot of like one of my idols is Simon Pegg, for instance, and some of his biggest breaks were from his own writing. Like he started writing Spaced, he started writing Shaun of the Dead. And it might not always work, but at least in like 30, 40 years, I can maybe sit there and go, I did my best, I tried, and that's what matters to me. Yeah. As long as I try, regardless of fail or winning, obviously ideally I don't want to fail, but even if I did fail, at least I can say I tried, I did my best.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to you know, within this industry, it's important to have an agent, someone that's going to represent you and look for work for you.
And someone that has all of those contacts that I don't necessarily have.
Exactly. If I can give any advice on that, which I'd like to, is it's important for you to do the outreach.
Yeah.
And let them agents know that you exist, that you're out there.
Yeah.
But they're not going to necessarily want to represent you just because you're good looking, just because you're talented.
Yeah.
You know, that's extremely important as well. You can be the most talented person in the world, but that won't mean anything to an agent. What an agent wants to know is, will you get work?
Exactly.
Will you bring them money in? Because that's their job. They want to earn a living.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right in saying that, you know, looking at someone like Simon Pegg and how he pursued his career is a really good idea. That make people come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Create the work yourself. Do your own writing. Put yourself in your own plays or in your own films.
Yeah.
And invite the agents along to those things and make them aware of that you're someone that...
Put yourself in front of them, say, look, I'm here. Pay attention to me. This is the space to watch.
This is who I am. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm talented and I look like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much that writing a cover letter to someone, writing an email saying, I promise I'm really good. There's only so so far that can take you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. It seems like that you've got a good plan.
Yeah.
So what's next for executing on that plan?
So currently I've just recently got new headshots, got them updated. And I'm also planning on organising, there's a little company now called the Voice Reel Company. So I'm going to get a voice acting reel started, because that's a good way of trying to earn money and stuff like that, is through voice acting, if you can do it, because there might not always be
portfolio as well.
Exactly, yeah. It helps strengthen everything. It helps say, look at all of these other things that I can do. I'm not just screen acting. Look, I can do all of this. So yeah, I'm gonna get a voice reel sorted, because I don't have a professional microphone or anything like that. and it's just better if it sounds professional rather than this is being recorded on a phone. Getting that sorted, then I've got a list of agents currently that I want to ideally apply for, and then reserves afterwards that I will also apply to. But there's some that, based on their previous clientele base, that they will be able to help me get the path of the career that I want. Because I like musical theatre, but I can't see myself doing that as a full-time career. So there's no use for me applying to those agents because they're not going to help me be who I want to be. So it's about applying to them. If I get into them, brilliant. If I don't, working through the list, applying to others, working on myself at the exact same time, giving them more so that if I get through the whole list, all of them say no, I can just start right back at the top and try again. Like, look how much I've changed since you last spoke to me. Is this any better? Is the plan that I want to go with at the moment.
The other thing with working through the list that I would say, and agents probably won't like me saying this bit, but the other bit of advice I'd like to give you there is I've noticed more and more that agencies say we only accept an email, only to this address. We won't be soliciting any contact in any other form. However, my most success from me getting an agent has been ignoring their structure and how they want stuff. Because take it from their perspective again, that they get 1,000 emails a year, and that they can stick it all in a folder in their email box, new applicants, and then they can go through that when they're ready. I've found it works better for me, and it costs you a bit of money, sending them my photo and my letter through the post. They've had to open it, they've had to look at it, they've had to take a moment to go no or yes, rather than being stuck in a junk folder. And it also shows the initiative, I think, as well. Like, rather than you're not following the status quo, you're going, I'm different here, look at this, and then they actually do have to take that into consideration. Because there will be, you are up against thousands.
There's so many people in this industry that want the exact same thing.
So for them, of course, they want it to go into a little folder and be neat and tidy.
It's easier for them.
It's easier for them. But if they pull out your face and they see what you're doing in their hands there in that moment, they can make a decision. And that's fine if the decision is no.
It's giving you that extra.
But it's giving you, rather than not being seen at all, rather than that email just completely disappearing. I do send emails as well when I've seeked an agent. Where are you looking for an agent at the moment? Because when I very first started doing this, there used to be a book that you used to buy called Contacts. That used to be similar, like this big. And it just used to be filled out with all the agencies' names, address, and emails.
Basically, the actors' yellow pages.
Basically. So where is it these days you look for an agent?
So a lot of the ones I get is from like contacts. I have like this network that I've built up because a lot of acting is networking. So people that I'm friends with, people that I've worked with on other productions, everyone's always exchanging their Instagrams nowadays, and I'll see who they're represented by. So I'll just have a little look, see what type of people they've hired. Is there anyone that I've worked with before, anyone that I recognise, what sort of stuff they're doing? Oh, this seems like a good one. I'll add it to the list. And I've got a friend that went to drama school, and she was literally given a whole list of these are sort of agents, because she's also quite comedy savvy. These are a list of agents that will be quite good for her, and so she sort of let me have a look at that list, and I've gone through and sort of gone, I like that one, they feel like the type of comedy that I want to do. This one's a bit more comedy in terms of musicals, which is not as me as much. So it's mainly through contacts, but also a little bit of Googling and ones that I know, like even if it's as simple as if there's like a celebrity whose work I quite admire, someone I would look up to, someone I would like to be like, who represents them, and having a look through their contact list and going along that is always where I get them from normally.
A great place to look is actually IMDb. If you sign up to IMDb Pro, on there, you can go into an actor, and you can see who their agent is, what agency they're with, and you could even take that down to, you can do that with the people high up, like Simon Pegg, or you could take that down to someone that's, say, in EastEnders, and you can see all of their contact details. You do have to pay for that, IMDb Pro, but that can be a good way to if you're really trying to target people that represent people like yourself, that can be a really good way to find out who it is that is representing them and who it is driving their careers.
Well, I'll certainly give that a go.
But I would say overall, though, more so than getting an agent is important for driving your career, you are the person that's got to drive this. So are there any projects coming up in the future?
So currently, as I said before, like a few months ago, I was cast in a web series, like a TV show sort of thing, which was a lot of fun to do. And that itself had the highs and lows of acting. So I initially auditioned for it ages ago. I think it was like maybe February or March. Auditioned for a specific role, and about 3 weeks later, after a lot of deliberating, I didn't get the part, which was quite sad. You do have to have quite a thick skin in this industry, because otherwise you will drop out immediately after being told one no.
You can't take it personally.
No, it's not that they don't like you. It's just you're not what they're looking for.
There's just too many factors involved with a casting decision to go, it's me. I do think you can learn things from a bad audition or an audition not going right or not getting the part. There are things you can take away and build on, but it isn't me personally, I'm not liked. So this one, it was quite good. They were very well at communicating with everything. So the issue that came from it is, obviously I'm quite a tall person, and the part they were looking at initially casting me for, the other two actors I'd have been on screen for, the two people that they wanted for that were a lot shorter than me, and we were supposed to be the same age, and they said it would have looked so strange and peculiar on camera. So that was why they sort of had to go in another direction with it, because it's easier to recast one person rather than two people. And then fast forward like a month or so, I get a phone call from one of the producers, and he says, "Hi Alfie, hope you're doing well. There's another part that we'd potentially like to put you in for. Would you be up for it?" So obviously at this point I've already gone through the getting excited for this opportunity and then having it taken away. So I was like, didn't get my hopes up. And it felt like something out of a film. So myself and my partner, we were on holiday in Disney, and on our last day we were getting ready for the airport, and I get a phone call from an unknown number, and I answer it, and it's another producer and the director confirming, like, "We want you to do it. Do you want to do it?" Yes, I do. And they sent me over the details, and I got to do it. It was a lot of fun. It was certainly a different experience. I got to film a fight scene on camera, which was quite a lot of fun. Like, I've only ever done stage combat, which is obviously, they share a lot of similarities, but there are differences. But it was a great experience. So I'd certainly like to do more of that. And in terms of upcoming projects, I've got 2 upcoming plays that I'm doing. So I'm doing a 1-act play with a writer-director called Mark Edwards, which is quite an interesting piece. I'm only in one scene, but it's quite a nice piece. It's not funny, it's quite a dramatic scene. I'm not entirely sure how much I can say in regards to it, but basically the general synopsis of the play is there's a gentleman, and he's moved into this community, and they're all sort of like older women who are surrounding not the normal people he'd hang out with, and he sort of becomes friends with them. And so my character in it, I play a truck driver who gets quite aggressive towards him, which is quite fun. It's nice to show aggression on stage. I don't really get to do it that often. I've had maybe one other opportunity where I got to do that. And then the next one that's coming up, it's the same writer-director with Harlow Theatre Company, their Harlow Fringe. So it's a play called Joined by War, and it's about the Battle of Somme. And it's a very interesting play. So it's basically this group of soldiers, and this new 17-year-old lad gets brought in, and he's very much like, I want to fight, I want to go kill some people.
and the other soldiers are they're all more experienced, they're very much calmed down. It's not all as glamorous as these magazines make it look. So my character in that is quite a complex role that I'm very excited to start rehearsing for. So I play a soldier that has previously fought in the war, and he's starting to show signs of PTSD, but he still puts on this front of, no, I'm a big tough soldier, I'm like, I don't need you lot to take pity on me. Mm-hmm. And it's great. He talks about previous experience in the war, being at the I think everyone knows about it, the I can't remember the year, but when the Germans and the English stopped fighting on Christmas Day and they played football together, and I start talking about that, and it's very good. I like plays like that are based on real events, because you can do your own research, you can really get into it. But equally, I also love doing the made up stuff, because you can let your imagination go wild, you can come up with whatever you want, you're not restricted. But yeah, they're the two upcoming projects I've got.
Tell me a little bit about you said you have excitement for this production.
Yeah.
I'd like to touch back a bit on the mental health that you brought up earlier, and that excitement is a really positive thing to have, isn't it, within your life? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I think a lot with the acting is there's always something around the corner. Like it's very unlikely that you're at a stopping point, you're at the end. Like even if you probably, like, someone could get cast in a major feature film, there's something else that could be coming up in the next year or so that's going to be better than that, bigger than that, on the same level as that. So it's constant excitement, it's constantly something to look forward to. So even in those moments when I've felt at my absolute lowest and I've thought, can I go on, what's the point in going on, there's always something to look forward to when it comes to acting. You can always sit there and go, oh, but I've got this production coming up, or I've got this audition to go to. And you forget about, or me personally, I forget about the issues I'm having for that moment, because I then start to look forward to the future. And I think that's what a lot of us do. We all look forward to the future, especially in this day and age where the world is quite a dire place. Like, everyone's having issues right now with money, with family, with their health. It's always good to try and look forward to something brighter that's coming, because if we don't look forward to something that's brighter that's coming, we're all going to be we're going to be so sad. No one's going to want to do anything. We're all going to just lay at home in bed in the darkness until...
So do you have any advice for someone that feels like there maybe isn't something coming around the corner? Like, so you seem to have had quite good luck with roles coming like one after the other and things to look forward to.
Yeah.
But what happens if there's a period of time when there isn't necessarily something around the corner?
Yeah, so like during COVID, it very much felt like that. I think a lot of people that are in the acting community had that moment of sitting there going, this could be just the end of all creativity. Like, I might just have to find something new to go with and start again, which is a very terrifying thought to have, that you might just have to start back from scratch, find something new that you're so naturally skilled at. And what I'd say to people, it's nothing, like, it will always, something good will always come. It's the wrong phrase because this is about death, but there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. There is always something to look forward to. You might not see it yet, but if you just hold on a little bit longer, something will show. Even if it's a slight little glimmer of hope, something will eventually show, and it's just about working towards that. It could be 20 years in the future, it could be an hour away, something might happen, but something will eventually happen. It's not going to be crap for this long. There are people that spend so many years having not the life that they want. It will eventually happen. Look at Samuel L. Jackson. He was in his 40s, I believe, when he got his first break. Morgan Freeman was quite late into it when he got his big break, and they're at the point where they are in their lives now. They probably spent a lot of their life sitting there going, maybe I should give up on acting, maybe it's not for me. But they held out that hope, and eventually what they wanted came. And I think that is a thing that will happen for everyone. It's all about trying to have a positive mindset. I've always been a firm believer that if you have that sort of negative mindset, something will happen negative. If you sit there and go, oh, I'm not going to get that part, you've automatically made it more likely that you're not going to get that part. Not to say that sitting there and going, I'm going to get this part, means you're going to get it. You don't put all of your hope onto that one thing. You still need to try as a person. But if you think positively about it, if you do in your head think, I'm going to get this, I'm going to nail this audition, you're going to go in there and nail this audition because you're not doubting yourself. And the people watching you, they will be able to feel that. It will resonate off of you that, oh, this person has a lot of confidence. Oh, this person really does think that they can play this role, and I believe them, which is a lot.
So you're in the early days of your career right now.
Yeah.
So what does success look like to you?
For me right now, basically at the end of my hopefully long life, I would like to look back on my time and say that I at least had an effect. I would like to leave my mark on the world. I don't necessarily, like some people do go into acting, they want to be famous, they don't care about that. I want to have affected at least a handful of people in my life with my craft. And I would like to, sooner rather than later, not at the end of my life, I'd like to be able to live my career as an actor. I don't want to have a side job. Obviously that's a lot of what actors deal with. Pretty much every actor has to have a side job to do. I'm quite fortunate in the fact that my side job is sort of to do with acting. I work in an escape room, so it's kind of a little bit acty. That's how I make myself feel better about it. It's kind of like acting. I'm not being myself, I'm playing a character.
Channel certain skills.
Exactly, and it's almost like a character study working in the escape rooms, because I spend an hour at a time watching people I've never met before on cameras solving puzzles, and it's such a mental environment to throw people into, because some people laugh at the funniest things, random things happen, some people argue, and anyone can do an escape room, so you get to see so many types of people. But it's not what I want to do forever. I would love it if my job could be wake up in the morning, go and film, go and rehearse, finish the day, come home, apply for more things, do a bit of writing, and then just do that for the rest of my life would be ideal to me. And that's hopefully one day what we can all achieve.
That sounds like a good, positive goal to have. And I really do wish you all the best with that. Is there any lasting words of advice that you could give other young actors that are starting out to help them be as positive as you are with this outlook on their career?
Yeah, I think one piece of advice is just keep trying, keep thriving, keep pursuing anything and everything that you can take every opportunity in your stride, but equally I think everything happens for a reason. If you don't get a part, if you miss an email and don't get an audition, it wasn't meant to be. Don't beat yourself up over it, because the likelihood is you will get an opportunity again. If you got it in the first place, you were good enough to get it in the first place, you're probably going to get it again. So just constantly look, even if you don't have a positive mindset, look for the positive mindset, even if it's something as small as, well, I got it in the first place.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you being on this morning.
Thank you very, very much for having me.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Alfi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm truly grateful to my guests for joining me today and sharing. If you would like to find out more about my guests, you can do so in the description below. And as always, I'm grateful to you, the listener and the watcher. And so, as we continue on this journey of creative exploration together on the BTS Creative Academy Podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe